the important part of this procedure is, of course, not the technique, which of course is technical, but the importance behind this whole endeavor. That is what is important. Now, let's say that in order to make this possible, over the past 30 years, I had to prove that everything that others believed to be true was actually false. This is very inspirational, because in life, if you want to start revolutions, you have to think differently, out of the box.
Yes.
So never believe what they tell you anywhere. Always question what they tell you. So in order to make this possible, I had to question the whole framework of neurology as it was taught at school and still is. Actually, things are slowly starting to change. But let's say that it is fair to say that even now, wherever you go, anywhere in the world, you will still hear about being able to move, you need this and that, which is actually wrong. So, the first inspirational factor is to question everything. But actually, heaven is much more important than this. We are going to save lives, that is for sure. But one thing that must be borne in mind is that Western medicine, as is practiced basically all around the world, has failed. And has failed in a big way. There are so many disorders for which we are totally powerless. No cure. Billions and billions of dollars have been spent on finding cures for anything, from cancer, and I'm referring, of course, to metastatic cancer, to terrible neurological disorders. And as you know, over the past at least 30, 40 years, we've been hearing about incredible, stupendous results coming from labs from highly developed countries. But the problem is that anywhere in the world, if you've got metastatic cancer, or you've got Alzheimer, if you've got tetraplegia, you die. Okay? So there always comes a time when we humans lie to ourselves, lie to others, but there comes a time when lies must stop. Because lies heap up, and then there is no more room for lies. So the fact is that heaven was thought to be a solution for these disorders, but not only. We humans have been around for 3 million years, more or less. And for 3 million years, we were born without even knowing why we were alive, and we all died. No question about that. Fear death actually caused all, no more than that. Actually, I'd say that fear death actually was the driving force behind the development of our culture, the development of whatever we do, because when you are born, you soon learn that you are gonna die. So I'm afraid I don't know what comes next. So religions were born and so on. But the fact is that again, lies have been said about this. What does it mean? That science, and I say science, or at least many scientists like me, believe that when you die, you don't die. But this for scientific reasons, not for religious reasons. And heaven will do its best to try and prove this point. Because when we will transfer the head, as I said many times, will be clinically dead. No blood, and cool to 10 degrees Celsius. It means almost frozen. So you have a frozen head without blood, clinically dead. When we will attach the head to the body and will revive this new body, this new human being, we expect him to tell us a story of what comes next, what is basically called near-death experience. Now, as many of you know, for many Western scientists, near-death experiences are the product of a dying brain. They are a hallucination. But actually, many of us believe otherwise. We believe that it is not so. So, when the first patient, the Russian patient, will be revived, he will tell us about what is up there. This will be the final evidence that we can expect to survive after death. That is the revolution. So, from the simple fact that now we know how to reconnect a severed spinal cord, not a crushed spinal cord, a severed spinal cord, spring forth a whole series of consequences that will shake the world. Let me say more. Of course, as I said many times over, heaven will have the power to extend life sometime in this century. So in this century, we will have the technology to make us live more. Of course, in the beginning, it will be only a few. But then, as the technology evolves, it will be more and more. But you must also know that in this century, a Russian group will try its best in order to transfer a human brain onto a cyborg. Now, this was science fiction until, 10, 15 years ago. But right now, these guys want to pull this off within 5 to 10 years. So in 5 to 10 years, a new species, a new human species will be born, a cyborg. This group is called Avatar. What are we looking at over the next 50 years? A complete change, a revolution in the way we live, in the way we think, in the way we feel, actually. Because we are on the brink of one of the greatest revolutions ever in the course of human history. And this coming out of thinking outside the box. This is important. You can just bring about major changes if you are ready to question everything that they tell you. Everything. It is written on a book, you question it. They tell you just that you are A, and then you come to think that perhaps you are B. Nothing is fixed, everything can be challenged, everything, but it depends on you. It depends on how strong you feel you are. I had to prepare myself psychologically for 30 years before making this announcement, because when you make announcements of this sort, you will be labeled, a nut, totally crazy, blah 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 blah. This is the history of science. When 100 years ago, more than 100 years ago, the Wright brothers flew Kitty Hawk, the first airplane, into the air. Every single expert at the time, believed that that was impossible. Flying in a heavier than air vehicle was impossible. Now, as you know, this is pretty much possible. So, you must never surrender, never give up. If you believe that something makes sense, of course you will have to build the evidence towards the goal, but when you're pretty sure that makes sense, you just go straight ahead and make your case to the world. That calls for courage. Courage and courage. But that is our destiny. You know, when we went to the moon, those 3 men have been pretty brave indeed. The first cosmonaut, very brave indeed. We must dare or we will fail. If you transfer the head of an aged man onto the body of a young man, it will boost your life extension, it will give you probably another 40 years of life. So in the beginning, it will be life extension. But then, when cloning becomes available sometime in this century, and cloning is already available, but it will be perfected sometime in this century, then you will be able to transfer your head on new bodies as you age. Because from animal studies we know that when an old tissue is exposed to the influence of young tissues, this undergoes a rejuvenation effect, and so it means that the clock is brought backward, is just one backwards, so time flows backwards, which is pretty incredible, but it happens in animals. So, I mean, this is the first step. That is why everything is going to change. And then you can imagine that nobody really believed that after the Hawk flew, we then could fly to the moon. So expect the impossible, expect things that we don't even begin to fathom. So, revolutions start small, and then they grow and grow and grow. The monkey, first of all, what everybody wrote, and it is totally wrong because they didn't read Dr. White's papers, is that Dr. White did not want he had no possibility to connect the spinal cord at the time, but he simply wanted to prove that a brain could be cooled, then detached from a body and reattached to the other body, and be revived. So his experiment was exactly that one. Nothing more and nothing less. So he didn't want to make it live. He just wanted to prove that after the transference, the monkey could be revived. So the experiment was totally successful. But everybody just said the experiment failed. It didn't fail. The experiment was totally successful. White did not want to make this monkey walk. He just wanted to prove the first part of this transference. So it was successful. As you know, right now about 100 limb transplants have been accomplished, and they have been all successful except number one, because of a psychological rejection, which did not occur again since patients have been selected more better, with being sieved out better. And same things applies to facial transplants. So no single facial transplant has been fully rejected. They are still all there, so I think that we'll have no problem there.